Hello, everyone, and welcome to Petite to Queen's Claim Your Crown podcast. I'm your host, Lynn, and today we're joined by our returning guest, Lesley Nase. Today, we're going to be talking about how you improve conversations with core communication skills. And I want to tell you about Lesley in case you don't recall. Lesley is the creator and CEO of Intuitive Animal Healing and certified core communications coach. She hosts Books, Yarns, and Tales, which is featured on the Win-Win Women TV network, along with Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. Lesley is a public speaker, an intuitive healer specialist with a focus on end of life. And for fun, she writes children's stories, and to date, she's published Who Paints the World. For more than 30 years, Lesley has been hired by pet people when conventional healing methods failed to answer their questions. As an animal communicator and healer, Lesley discovered that people often needed guidance in communicating what they desire. Lesley has always believed in empowering people to make informed choices for their health, well-being, and success. Today, entrepreneurs hire Lesley to get the core of communication because most fail to speak the language of their listeners and are missing out on connections, relationships, and resolutions to maximize success. So she helps break down the communication barriers to leverage conversations for collaborations and conversions. Bottom line, Lesley's core communication system quickly turns connections into cash. Lesley, I am so thrilled to have you back today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I love being with you, and the show is great. So I'm so pleased to be back here.
Yeah. And for those of you who are joining us for that very first time, you know what? Don't waste another moment. If you want to make sure that you get every episode of Claim Your Career Crown wherever you get your podcasts, hit the subscribe button. And if you love what we're doing, please click all 5 stars for your review. We would very much appreciate it. Well, Lesley, you're in this whole communication area, and I have core communications. I'd love to hear what inspired you to get started down this path of delivering this service.
I think you touched on it a little bit in your introduction of me. Communication has been something that is truly been my life path and journey. And while I was working with people who share their lives with pets, I truly understood that it was the people who needed to understand how they communicate, whether they were communicating directly to their pet or whether they're communicating to the rest of their family. And even if we back that up, it was how they were communicating at work and what was going on. Because part of how we communicate to one another is our own body language. How do you bring yourself to the table? How do you show up? And if you're showing up at work and it's been a not so great day, then you're going to show that. And what happens often is we revert back to what is called like your default language.
Okay.
We have a style, we have a way of being in this life, and there are certain habits and things that happen in our head unconsciously that we're not always aware of.
Yeah.
And when you get especially into work, there you could be carrying whatever's happening at home on your back and vice versa. When you're done with work, you carry it home. And sometimes you need to learn how to let that go, reset your mind so that when you walk in the door, no matter where you are, you're fully present with whomever you're with.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love what you're saying and just sort of shedding that like a coat as you walk in the door. So I'm really curious, how you do this, how you work with people. Do you have some kind of a process?
Yes. When you said core, it's actually in capital letters CORE. It is a system, and I'll tell you that it is not my brainchild, but it corresponds right with my own work and everything that I do. It happens to be the brainchild of Jane M. Powers, who is my business coach. And when she was interviewing me and working with me on my own work, she was like, "Oh my gosh, Lesley, I have this program that I can tweak right for what you do, and it will open up and broaden what you do because you work now with people and their pets, but you're also talking about a larger audience. Those entrepreneurs who need your help, whether they're solopreneurs or whether they're small businesses or medium size, this could help them get those conversations going and those collaboratives going and making those connections that they haven't done before." And so reading over the material, I just went, "Yes, please, thank you," and kind of stepped into it. Now, let me just break it down a little bit more for you. The word core is like an acronym. We start with these are certain personality types that we have. Now, you can take lots of different personality tests, and they'll give you all kinds of breakdowns. But what Jane had done in her history and her research was to say, okay, I am seeing 4 different types that correspond with people who work in business, in particular, not straight across the board. So you could have some trait is going to show to be higher than the other, but you could also have some traits that are in there. And it's about learning yourself and knowing yourself first. So let me start with the C. The C is for catalyst. A catalyst is someone who gets an idea and is ready to go with it. They're not swimming in the pack, they're out front, they just want to move. They made a decision, they're moving forward, they don't want to wait for anything. In fact, they have a hard time being held back when they just want to move forward.
Yeah.
They're the people you're going to find most often in your sports. I have a little help here. They're sports minded, they're active activities outside, and they want to move around. So that's C for catalyst, and then the O is for optimizer. Your optimizers are the ones who love their systems. They want to know that they've got, the spreadsheet that's all set up so that they can keep track of everything they've got going on. They like their numbers. They like to have sequences, their patterns. Everything has a place and everything, they know where it goes. And they're the people who are going to be more like your accountants, but not only your accountants, they're just going to be those who are very mindful that a system works, a system's in place, and they're very comfortable being able to run that system to make it very effective in the work that they do. So then that's the O for optimizer. The R is for relator. Now, a relator is your open-hearted people who just love a good cause. If you're doing something for the good of everyone, they're in. They're more of our spiritual people. They're the ones who are, going to stand up and say, the injustice, they're going to fight against the injustice. Now, they're going to take more time to spend out in nature. They may meditate, or they'll really contemplate what they're doing before they do it. They want to make sure it's good for everyone. And that's R for relator. And then the last letter is E. E is for expert.
Okay.
Experts are those people who really dive in to what they're interested in. They want all the facts, all the figures, and they're going to research and research. It's like a great big puzzle to them. They love putting all the pieces together. In fact, if you're ever speaking at an audience and somebody goes, where did you find that fact? That's probably an expert. They want to know, where did that come from? Is that true? They love that kind of thing. And experts, like I said, they're the ones who are going to they're problem solvers. They like puzzles. They like reading. They like education. And that is E for expert. So those are the four basic categories in this communication system. So that understanding that, then actually you got to step back a minute once you
Yeah.
understand that there's four pieces to it, because where do you fit in? What strength do you really carry within that?
Right.
And so I have a free assessment that I give people that they can take, and then they can find out where they land. And then we talk about it. And we talk about, what your strengths are there and what your weaknesses are in that. And it's just like saying, if you're an expert, not an expert, I was thinking of a catalyst. If you're a catalyst, then you don't really care about the system. You don't want anything that's going to slow you down. You don't necessarily need to go find those facts either. And those can be, I wouldn't say negative, but you need to know all aspects in order to understand how it is that you show up in this world, and what are you putting forward when you want to put your best foot forward.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
knowing yourself is like the first step in all of that. And then step two is knowing others. If
Yeah.
you then have studied about how you work in this world, how you sound, how you speak, and what your stories are, then you can kind of decode other people in these simple ways
Yeah.
on the four basics. And if you can decode someone else, then you understand where they're coming from. You're not going to tell a relator all the facts and figures of a project you want to do, because they don't care. They want to know the deeper meaning. How is this going to affect everyone around us? Is it a win-win for everybody? That's what they're looking for.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you have those two steps. You get to know yourself, and then you know the other person. And then the third step in the whole process is knowing what to say, how to say it, and when to say it. So that's a brief overall, but it really helped people once they get to that point is like, you've got to practice that. It's like anything. You and I have talked about mindset before. And this is, in some ways, where's your mind at? So that you can feel comfortable and you're not having to think, oh my God, what is that person? What are they doing? And what am I going to say? Instead, you will have a more easy flow to any conversation that you're having with someone that'll lead right into collaborations with someone, which helps with your own success, which the bottom line there is to make more money in your own business.
Yeah. No, of course. I really see the value in all of this. I mean, one of the things that and I've seen that over and over again in sales, call it, flexing your style or adapting to meet the other person where they're at. And that's something that, we would call it reading people so that we could match in their style so that we can really guide them through the client journey and guide them to a decision and then work more successfully with them. I am curious though, when you're working with entrepreneurs through this process, do you find things that hold people back, and what are those stumbling blocks that you run across?
Ooh, yes, definitely. There's always something that seems to hold us back. And it happens to all of us. This is common. And I think one of the most common barriers for people is their own money story. What is it that you believe about money? Do you believe that you can easily make money, every time you open up your mouth and talk to someone? Or do you believe that, oh my gosh, this is hard. I don't know if I can get this sale. I don't know if I said this right. What if they don't like me? If you've got things like that running through your head, part of that goes back to that unconscious part of us, that what did we learn about money at a very early age? And consciously you may know what comes up because you'll feel it and you'll be part of it, but that can be a huge barrier. And so that's part of what we explore is what are your beliefs about money? Not only just you personally, but what did you grow up with? What did mom say? What did dad say? What happened around your siblings? Because once you truly understand that, and again, it goes back to some of that mindset and even your body belief, because if you're not feeling confident, you're not going to look up and you're not going to smile, you're not going to meet somebody in the eye. You're going to be a little bit more downcast and
Yeah. Oh.
kind of hesitant. And, yeah. Um, and and when you do that motion that we just did, it is not one that gives the person you're speaking to much confidence in what you say or do. So you have to come from that place of, okay, you know, and it may be what I call, your money mantra is to write out what you believe about money and how do you implement that. An easy example is I do a gratitude journal every night. So I go through my day and I think of what I'm grateful for. But one of the things that I say is I am so happy and grateful for the flow of multiple sources of income into my life. And then I let that feeling, how does that feel to me, really generate in. Is it me that nice, warm feeling? Then I know that my body is resonating with that, it's vibrating with that. But if I say something that is untrue, like I'm so happy and grateful that I made $10,000 today, I may feel that in the pit of my stomach if it's not true. If I
Yeah.
didn't make that amount of money, that's my body kind of tells what goes on by how it feels. And that's all wrapped up into understanding who you are to help you get through those barriers, to move past whatever holding you back so that you can practice and be present with anyone.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love what you're talking about, and I really had never thought about that money mindset and how that deeply impacts how you view things and how you respond or react in any given situation, or how you pick up on communications, what you hear versus someone
Mm-hmm.
else. So I'm really curious from your perspective is why is core communications more urgent than ever right now?
Ooh. In this world right now, we are getting so much miscommunication. We are putting ourselves out there on social media all the time. We tend to have communication with people through text and not on the phone anymore. And when you're seeing that written word in a short little sentence, that's a big difference between that short little sentence and using it in a whole paragraph or a
Right.
story that you're being told. You have no idea how that is coming across to
Yeah.
someone else. You don't know if they are understanding what you're talking about or are they misunderstanding what you're saying. Are they, wherever they're standing in their own life, are they perceiving that as something different? We're
Right.
losing out, even though you and I are talking here on Zoom and people will probably see what we're doing. That face to face conversation with people, of where you're really listening to that other person, isn't happening.
Right.
Even when you're in that face to face, there's somebody else who's thinking, okay, oh, okay, I hear what they're saying, but I got to make this point. I'm ready to step in. Before you even finish talking, that other person
Yeah.
is thinking about what they're going to come back with. And so that's where conflict comes in, if you don't have clear conversation and you're not open to conflict in and resolving
Yeah.
it in the first place. And a lot of people are not, they're avoiding conflict.
Yeah.
They're not standing up for themselves or what they believe, or they're not presenting themselves in an open, friendly manner that you can have a back and forth. It
Right.
is, you and I, we listen to each other. We talk often. So, listeners just know, it's just like, so we have a weekly conversation. And quite often it's like, okay, so this is what I'm hearing you say. And so repeating that back is a way of getting clarity, not only for the person who was hearing it, but for the person who spoke. Because
Yes.
then you can say, that's not exactly what I meant. Or, you know what, I'm just really trying this out right now. So I'm trying to figure this out in my brain. And when you're doing that, you're opening up that space between two people. It's an energy exchange. No matter what, whether it's a verbal exchange like right now, whether it's whatever's coming off our body and vibrating to the other person, either within the room that we're in or across the nation as you and I are, there's an exchange of energy and it can hit people different way. And
Yep.
so that's why it's so crucial to be able to communicate and communicate clearly. We don't want to pick on our news people because there's wonderful journalists out there. But our news, whether it's TV or newspaper, wants to sell. They're in business to sell. And they put the most horrific headlines and stories out there. And sometimes they don't have all the facts.
Yeah.
So, they missed an opportunity to tell you both sides or a good side. How long has it been since you actually read good news in a
Yeah.
paper?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so true. That's so true. Yeah, my goodness. Sometimes, certain days, I just simply avoid the news. So I have to say, but you know, I'm, this has been such a fabulous conversation. So Leslie, I'd really like you to share with our audience, people who feel like they recognize in themselves some areas where they know they don't communicate well, or there's some friction, or where they've missed opportunities, and they know what those opportunities are, and they're starting to think, well, maybe it's because I don't understand, the core
Mhm.
communications and how to do that. What should listeners do next?
Well, they can certainly get a hold of me. And, if they want to ask about the free assessment, they can certainly do that. And then we can book a call and we can talk about it. That's for sure. I think you have the links to that information. If you don't, I'll make sure that you get it. And, if they're looking for something right now to do, it is to really pay attention to what are you saying? How are you saying it? And how could you change it? So, a daily practice that I like, and I use this with my meditation, but I also use it other ways. Like with this interview, I might go, well, I actually did this with an interview I did yesterday, um, because like I had a little twist in there. So, I might have said, gosh, I write down, I did this really well. And then I'll write down, what did I really do well? What came across well? And what could I have done better? It's not about being wrong or anything else. It's about what I could have done better. Because when you start to look at what you've done, could have done better, that's when you're training your brain to start and say, oh, well, she wrote down this scenario. That's how she could have changed what it was that she said at that time. And that's how she could have done it better. So it's changing the synapses within our brains. Our
Right.
neurons can fire in a different way.
Yeah.
That's just a quick tip of how you can move forward.
Yes, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And especially because it's also uh, an affirmation and of what you did well, and
Yes.
then what you could do better. So thank you so much, Leslie. That's a brilliant
Thank
tip.
you.
And thank you so much for sharing how to how everyone out there can improve their conversations with core communication skills. And I know you alluded to it, but I know that our listeners are going to know more about where and how they can find you.
Ah, okay. So leslienase.com is the website for the core communication. And then it's Lesley at leslienase.com is the email address. And if you're still looking for maybe the healing work, then I suggest for animals, if you're sharing your life with animals or you're looking for healing yourself, you can find that intuitive healing. Right. Get my tongue working right? Intuitiveanimalhealing.net is the website there, and that's Lesley and it's Lesley. So correct your paper, Lesley, little different spelling, at intuitiveanimalhealing.net.
All right, that's
Oh,
brilliant.
come join me on Win 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 Women TV for Books, Yarns, and Tales. That's TAILS. It's written wisdom, inspired stories, and animals and nature that share our lives. So I'd love to have you come live, but if not, listen to the replays.
Yeah, absolutely. Lesley's on every single week on Fridays at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. And I know that I love catching her show. It's fantastic. And at any time, you can watch any of the shows on the Win Win Women Network, Apple TV, Amazon, Fire, or Roku. I mean, I'm doing it.
See? I
Okay.
know, it's catchy, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I just want to put in a plug for this special lady too, because she is also on Win Win Women TV. Get More Clients is her new show. And you can find her on Wednesdays. And I believe that's Channel 2 on Win Win Women
Yeah.
.tv. But she's Wednesdays, 8 a.m. Pacific and 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And she is just going into all the nuances of all the knowledge that she has. And it's fascinating. I know you'll pick up so much great information.
Well, thank you for that, Lesley. That's really wonderful. And yeah, Lesley's on channel one. I'm on channel two. At some point, I think there's going to be 24 channels, and it's going to be fantastic. But
Right.
Lesley and everyone who tuned in, thank you so much. This has been such an informative discussion. And if you have ideas that you'd like to share, you can leave us a comment down below. We do love hearing your thoughts. Also, if you would like to suggest a topic for discussion or you have a specific question, you can email us at jointheconversation@petitetoqueen.com. And to stay current on all of our insightful advice, our breakthrough advantages, incredible episodes like the one today, sign up for our weekly wisdoms newsletter at petitetoqueen.com. And again, I want to thank everyone who tuned in, turned or tuned. And Lesley, thank you so much for being here. This has been such a great conversation.
Thank you so much, Lynn. It's been my honor and my pleasure to be with you.